I gave it a 5.5. I thought it was cool for what it was, but yeah, I thought Saturn was always pretty intense and pretty cool. So yeah, this was all right.
Yeah, I gave it a 5. Again, same reasons. It was entertaining. Lodi was just all he was for the comedy. He was supposed to just make people laugh. And this is kind of like the Wright and Finley match. There was really nothing much to this. This is just an entertainer.
Yeah, it was. It's interesting. Lodi was the comedy guy for WCW, or one of the main one. But and then you have Saturday, which played that part in WWE or WWF a little while later on.
Pretty much, yeah.
Bobby, which we recently covered in our archives with No Mercy.
Which company did Chavo Guerrero had the wooden horse that he rode on? Was that WCW? That was WCW.
Yeah. But by the way, in that text I sent you earlier, that link to that Jericho video, he talks about that too.
Okay. This is something I thought of since you said Moppy, and I can't remember what he named the horse, but still.
Pepe. No, his older brother was named Pepe. Yeah, and then I forgot the original. You'll find out in that video. But Pepe was, I think the older brother thing was a baseball bat with something on it, zebra or whatever the hell it was on that top of baseball bat. But he had his original thing. I forgot what it was called.
Yeah, I just kind of remember that being a thing. Next up was Disco Inferno versus Billy Kidman for the Cruiserweight title.
Disco Inferno, yeah. He's so catchy. He's so cool. He's just a disco dancing fool. I just had to sing that one. Sorry. Good.
One of the things I dug about this match is the fact that Disco kept trash talking Billy Kidman. So there's like this one part where he's down on the mat and he goes, "Billy, turn your music down." "Okay, Mom," and kind of keeps going with it. But this is they gotta give Disco credit. Put on 2 matches. None of them they weren't similar. He definitely had two different types of matches that they kind of had put together. But basically, Kidman reversed the pile driver into a facebuster, hits the shooting star. Which, yes, Kidman could do a shooting star, but man, is it ugly.
Especially his first one. Did you see his first one he did? He talked about it.
First one ever?
Yeah, he talked about that a long time ago. They showed a video of his first one, and it was he didn't hit the opponent. He basically did a flip and he hit the ropes. It was just like it was just terrible. He laughed a little bit. It was just like, first one I did was they showed a video of it, and oh my Lord, have mercy. I don't know how he didn't get hurt. But anyways, yeah, that's crazy.
I've liked Kidman's because it did look more natural, but if you compare his to Evan Bourne's looks a lot better.
Well, yeah, you get more velocity, you get more aerial, and different. It's just a different version of it. I mean, I think the worst one, other than Kidman's first one, it was Brock Lesnar's was Lord forbid he got a concussion on. But that Brock Lesnar one was crazy. But anyways, Kidman, he had a pretty good shooting star press, and I was see him live once and or twice, I should say, and it was a pretty cool move. I think the last time I seen him, he didn't use it. He used that like pop up power bomb thing, and
the kick crusher.
It was that was at an independent show several years ago. Man, that was maybe about 12
I think as he got older, he stopped doing it just because it's more of a high risk and more possibility of him hurting himself or others.
Yeah, absolutely. But that was a good match too, that indie show in my hometown.
I rated this a 7. Would you rate it?
I actually rated a 6, but I'm gonna give it a 6.5. Might as well. I was entertained by it. I give props to all 3 of those guys in the cruiserweights that night, and Disco delivered really well for being 2 matches. And I was always entertained by Disco. And I thought it was really even better when he turned face. He turned face when he had that rivalry with the Cat.
Right. To kind of talk about the score a little bit, I originally was going to give it a 6, but I bumped it up to 7, just bearing in mind that Disco put on 2 matches. This was his second match, and I mean, like I said, there's no duplicates. It was.
And they weren't like 5 minutes piece. They were like, good length.
They're full length, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry, you're about to say something too.
No, that was just basically it. It was because I was going to say they're full length matches. It wasn't like a squash at all.
Yeah.
The next match ended up being the Scott Steiner and the Giant versus Rick Steiner and Buff Bagwell, where Bagwell basically turned on Rick and low blowed him.
Hey, one question before we go on real quick. Do you think it would be more interesting story if they would have had Disco win and they had a storyline around his weight, his false weight? Do you think that would have been a better storyline for him?
Maybe. It wouldn't fit in this era of WCW. It would have fit later on, maybe in the 99-2000 WCW. Like when they brought in the full-blooded Italians, I thought it would work there. Is that what they were called back then?
Full-blooded Italians, FBI.
Where was that? There's an era in WCW when Russo was there, and Tony Marinara, which was Tony Mamaluke, was trying to come back and have Disco pay a gambling debt for gambling on sports.
I thought it was called. And he had to do the Mamalukes, but it must have been called something different.
You're right. They were called the Mamalukes.
Okay.
If he would have done it then, where basically he won the Cruiserweight title, and the idea is as long as he carries it, he keeps making a lot of money, he'll pay back, and then they start questioning his weight, it would have worked perfectly.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I understand. I just thought the idea come up. I think they came up. I think full FBI they were in ECW, I believe, that name. And they did use that also, I believe, in WWE.
Yeah, they did use it in WWE. I just couldn't remember if they used it in WCW or not.
Yeah.
You're right. They were called the Mamalukes.
Okay.
But back to Steiner and Rick in the tag titles. So basically, Buff Bagwell leaves. Rick gets double teamed. Rick moves out of the way of a missile dropkick from the Giant. Giant basically punts Scott Steiner across the ring. I would not
have been Scott Steiner getting drop kicked from Ball White. No way.
Right. And one of the things I thought was kind of crazy is on commentary, they're like, I hope they reinforce the ring ropes. Then you have Heenan chime in. Here comes your jumbo jet.
Yeah.
Either way, Steiner gets up on the turnbuckle and does I don't remember what it's called, but it was basically the bulldog that he did.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Pins and wins the match. So now he is the tag team champions, and he gets to face Scott Steiner 1-on-1.
Yeah, that's a good one. Man. I like that whole thing they did. And I knew that Buff Bagwell was going to turn on too.
Yeah, and here's the kicker. While he turns on Rick, they're like, "Oh, well, he got his mom involved." And like, "Do you think she knew about it?" And Tony Schiavone's like, "I don't know if I can blame Judy. I've known Judy for a long time." And Heenan says, "Well, it's all her fault that he is the way he is." And Tony's like, "I wouldn't say that." He goes, "Oh, you're right. It's the dad's fault." So, yeah, Heenan for you.
It could have been. Shame on him.
There's Bobby Heenan for you. But basically, Scott Steiner tries to walk off. Rick pulls him back in the ring. Then basically has to deal with the Giant and everything else. Then Bill Clinton hops the gate and walks around. A very buff-looking Bill Clinton.
I was trying to figure out what he looked like. But I was like, could it be probably I didn't think it looked like Vince, so I'm like, it might be Clinton, but I wasn't even sure. So, yeah. I don't even remember that one. But
So I actually knew someone that had that same mask back in the day. But he grabs the slapjack from Stevie Ray, hits Steiner with it. Steiner still kicks out. Oh, wait, let me rephrase. He hits Steiner with it, hits the referee with it. The bell rings for whatever reason. They try to pin Rick. Buff uses the ref count. Rick kicks out. They set up Rick for the Frankensteiner. He does it again. Rick kicks out. Steiner basically beat them down, and then hits the Bulldog again, this time on Scott Steiner, and wins. Everything built up against Rick. Rick still did it.
I love that whole thing, man. It was great.
Would you end up rating it?
You know what? Oh, I'm gonna give it a 7, man. I don't know why. I did a tag team match for the 6, so I'm gonna say altogether, I would go for 7.5. I didn't put the rating down for the single, so I'll go 7.5 the whole thing.
I did it as an 8, just because it was a good story of Rick fighting back against all odds.
Yeah, that's why I say I'm gonna give it a 7.5. So I guess you can say that match and the Jericho and the Raven match was the 2 top ones.
Yeah, I could see that.
That was 2 matches that had up to 7.5. So. But anyways, it was good. It was entertaining. Loved Rick Steiner back then. I think it's crazy storyline you eventually had was with Chucky.
That was the stupid thing. That was
stupid. I lost interest in the whole thing. That's where they're, one of the parts of their going downhill was part of too.
Well, they always wanted to do crossovers, and you could tell that was Turner's involvement, and I think it's just more for commercial purposes to run a commercial. Basically.
Oh, that's fine. I'm just saying that it's like one of their biggest downfalls starting at was this night with KU cutting off, and then it's the Rick and Chucky thing, which is one of those things that just involved the slow downfall with it. But yeah, I understand what you mean by the crossfall.
Yeah, it diminished it completely.
Yeah.
You and I can just in previous discussion before recording, we disagree on this one, but it's Nash versus Hall. Which I wouldn't even call this a real match. This was basically just a fight, and they kind of played up the fact that Nash just wanted to beat some sense into Scott Steiner. Not Scott Steiner, Scott Hall.
I was waiting on the correction there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got a tickle in my throat that's making me cough here. It's throwing me off. In any case, he wanted to beat some sense into Scott Hall. And in the beginning, it looks like Scott Hall comes out drunk, but basically throws whatever's in his cup in Nash's eyes and just starts laying into him. And there's at points where Nash was just asking him to come in, which to me I dug. To me, this story was basically that Nash didn't really want to fight him. He basically felt like he had to. So he wanted to let Scott basically beat the demons out of him, and then just come back and demolish Scott, which is what he did. Nash is not a great wrestler.
No.
He has 6 moves, and one of them is moving his hair.
I've never been a Nash fan. I want to move his hair. It's funny.
And Scott, one of the things I always liked about Scott Hall is the ways he set up his punches. His punches sounded good. And they look snug. It's one of the weird things that I think The Rock kind of copied off of him, because The Rock and Scott Hall's punches look very, very similar.
Oh yeah.
But basically, Nash does a jackknife. He asked if he should do one more. Crowd cheers. He does another one. He basically says he'll have a double, and then walks away. They said on commentary that the second jackknife, he held him in the air longer. No, he waited for Scott to have his balance before he dropped him. And Nash's power bombs did not look good. I remembered him being way better when I was a kid. But these were both rough, and that's more on Nash than Hall. But either way, would you end up rating this match?
Gave it a generous 4.5.
See, and that's like I said, you and I differ. I gave it a 6, but it's not for any performance things.